It's a special edition of Rewind to Raw when we bring in a guest to join us right off the top. He is the man behind WrestleNomics, your friend of mine, Brandon Thurston, who is with us. It is hoodie edition of Brandon Thurston, not available at chop-tees.com, but maybe a future edition there. It is in the WrestleNomics colors, by the way, I will note.
It is, yes. It's blue and white, yes. Sure, close enough.
So, Brandon, if I were to say, what have you and I been off and on working on for weeks, what would you describe that as? That came to fruition today. This has been quite a massive undertaking, and I would not have been able to come on tonight and just talk about this solo without having you to be here with us.
Well, I was looking back at when we started to try to report, which we did report today, along with Tim Marchman for Front Office Sports, the identities of the four, until now, anonymized WWE corporate officers, who we can say now are, number 1 is Nick Khan, number 2 is Brad Blum, number 3 is Stephanie McMahon, and number 4 is Brian Nurse. A couple of those names are probably not that familiar to wrestling fans, but we've been working on that. I looked when I sent the first email trying to dig into this was back about 3 weeks ago, but it's been much more intense in the last 7 days or so for John.
Yes. Yeah, this has been something that we have been kind of working on. And yeah, in the last week, this grew significantly in intensity and giving us the chance to work with Tim Marchman, who just quite frankly, I don't think we could have finished this without Tim Marchman, who is people have heard him on our shows, many other shows. He's a fantastic reporter, and just getting to work with him was just a real just education at the very least. So this news has come out, and now we do have the identities of the 4 corporate officers. And with that knowledge, we also did get a response from WWE on the record, as well as Ann Callis, who is the attorney for Janelle Grant, who did confirm the identities of the 4 corporate officers. I would certainly encourage those that are reading a story to also go through the complaint yourself of what the corporate officers number 1 through number 4, what is listed in there. Like we're not bringing to light any new allegations beyond the complaint. What we are doing is uncovering 4 of the anonymized corporate officers and what is alleged in the complaint of what they knew, did not know, which ultimately is going to play out if this civil case does end up going to a trial.
Yeah, and I think it's really meaningful, as I was telling John and Tim earlier today offline, is that we've got a really substantial comment response from WWE for, and in my view, really the first time after we've had, ever since this lawsuit came out on January 25th, we've had a press conference with Pollock, and he didn't really want to talk about this. He wanted to focus on the positive. And there's been, we've had Shawn Michaels really actually handle the questions better than Paul did in an NXT conference call. And there have been a number of questions asked to talent. We not really making any comment. Now, TKO had made one comment when this story first came out and sort of distanced itself from Vince. But WWE itself, and certainly the number 1 executive in WWE, Nick Khan, has not said anything about this. And Nick Khan, to be clear, Nick Khan has not made a comment himself, but WWE spokesperson has made a number of comments for this article.
Yeah, one of which is WWE takes Ms. Grant's allegations very seriously and has no tolerance for any physical abuse or unwanted physical contact. Neither Nick Khan nor Brad Blum, prior to the lawsuit being filed on January 25th, 2024, were aware of any allegation by Ms. Grant that she was the victim of abuse or unwanted physical conduct, nor does the complaint allege that either had knowledge of such. And yes. I mean, if you read the complaint and you can see like what is alleged of, the degrees of what knowledge, like we know at the baseline here, this was a inappropriate relationship that Vince McMahon was engaged in. And should this civil case move forward, the degree to which this was known, what elements were known, there is still a case that it's very tricky to report on these when you still have this case that is ongoing and that we are in the midst of. And that's something we've also had to navigate in our reporting.
And one thing we can make extra clear for people is, as John said a few minutes ago, we've revealed the identities of who these otherwise anonymized officers are. So we know who they are now. We have no new allegations. All we have now is you can reread the complaint and you can know exactly who Janelle Grant is referring to throughout this complaint. Now, we don't know that Brad Blum, Nick Khan, or Stephanie McMahon or Brian Nurse, for that matter, knew of all the terrible various allegations that Janelle Grant is making. We don't necessarily know that they knew anything about these terrible assaults that were allegedly happening to her. But it is hard to believe for me, this is my opinion, that they didn't know that there at least was some sort of relationship, probably a sexual relationship between Vince McMahon, who was the CEO of a company that had more than 800 employees at the time, and a low-level entry employee who was, several rungs up the ladder from her. So that should have set some alarm bells off of, this is a relationship where there's an enormous disparity in power, and we can get into whether or not WWE had some explicit policy that prohibited such things or not. But you could say that should have set some alarm bells off for them.
Wait, you've had a chance to read the article. Are there any takeaways that you had from reading it, or any questions for that matter?
I guess a question for you two, just, simply a few hours maybe after the publishing of this article, what are some perhaps misconceptions to interpretations of the story you two might have seen that you might want to clarify?
Mainly the one that I just tried to dispel just a moment ago.
Right. Care to reiterate that just, one more time for the people in the back?
That in this article, we have, the headline, and then there's a bullet point. And the first bullet point is neither Khan nor Bloom is alleged to have participated in or known about abuse of any kind. Now, again, they didn't, as far as we know, and it's not alleged in this complaint, they did not participate in any sort of assaults or what have you. What they are alleged to have done, according to Janelle Grant, is have supported this relationship between Vince and Janelle Grant.
Right. The idea that should there have been guardrails in place that could have prevented any issues from happening when this relationship that at its core was an improper one, given the power imbalance, and that this relationship should not have been tolerated. Again, that's for it to play out and make those determining factors and how much knowledge. And again, it will be the people named, the people that are the defendants will get their day for their defense, and that is why I can tell everybody this: we were as aggressive as possible to get everyone's side of the story represented here, and leaving no stone unturned when it came to seeking out the ability to hear that side and have it represented as best we could in the finished piece. And I think Brandon would agree with that.
Yeah, and just to put it another way, did Blum and Nick Khan know that Janelle Grant was being sexually assaulted, as she alleges? Not necessarily. Did they support Vince having this relationship with her and getting her moved around to various departments? According to Grant, she did. They did.
Yeah. So I would certainly advise people that if you're just reading the article, cross-reference it with the complaint. It's very accessible, and this does fill in the gaps of number 1 through number 4, and you can see in plain language in the complaint of what is brought up and what is alleged and what is not alleged.
Yeah, and I guess when it comes to the other two, so the main story here is that we've got today the number 1 officer in all WWE is alleged by Grant to be very involved in supporting the relationship between Vince and Grant. You've got Brad Blum, who was chief of staff, who's EVP of operations, depending on the time. That's his title. He's very involved, allegedly, in supporting this relationship between Grant and Vince. Then we do have Stephanie McMahon, who's corporate officer number 3, who's only mentioned in 2 paragraphs, where number 3 is described as inviting Grant to sit next to her at a meeting. And Grant alleges that she had knowledge of other inappropriate relationships that Vince had. So there's a limited scope of what's alleged here when it comes to Stephanie McMahon. When it comes to Brian Nurse, that's an even more complicated thing in terms of it appears that, even according to Grant's own depiction of the situation, that he was very uncomfortable. He was very cold to her. They didn't have a good relationship, apparently, according to her. And he eventually left the company. Under what circumstances aren't clear.
Right.
And what explain why it was Nick Khan and Brad Blum that might be the two that are in the headline and not the other corporate officers?
Because there's the most substance when it comes to Khan and Blum. They were, according to Grant, supportive of keeping this relationship going and keeping her in these departments and helping Vince out in managing this situation as it concerns Janelle Grant. Whereas there's very limited information about Stephanie. There's a conflicting disposition when it comes to number 4, who is Brian Nurse.
I know a name a lot of people, at least, that might be in the WWE audience, pro wrestling audience, that might have, I guess, wanted more clarification on is the role of a Paul Levesque in all of this. Maybe even a name a lot of people might have speculated would be one of the officers. In your research, do you feel like you could say any sort of conclusive, statement about what you consider his role to be in all of this?
We can say nothing beyond what Janelle Grant is alleging, and which again is all we're saying here. These are the people that she is referring to in this complaint. Does Paul Levesque know? Did Paul Levesque know about this relationship between Vince and Janelle Grant? Did he know about any of the other allegedly inappropriate relationships that Vince may have had over the years? But we can't say any more today than we could yesterday.
And also, just on a note on the 4th, for those that are not familiar, obviously everyone knows Nick Khan, the current president of WWE. Brad Blum is still there in the company as chief operating officer. Stephanie McMahon, we know, has departed, and Brian Nurse left the company in November of 2020, which we sought clarification on him leaving, whether it was a resignation, whether he was released, and did not get confirmation on the nature of his exit. But he was somebody that, there was a press release when he was brought into the company. He was general counsel and then left in 2020. So 2 with the company, 2 that have since left.
Everyone was reached out to here. We overnighted a letter to Stephanie McMahon, but we have not heard back.
Yeah, I'm going to leave maybe for you two to discuss a lot more of the particulars on Wednesday, because I know there's probably way more that went into all this than you guys were able to just tell us in these 10 minutes. So,
yeah. I have one question for Wade, though. In all this time, I've been wondering, what did Wade know and when did he know it? Did you know that we were working on this all this time?
I knew you were working on it. Yeah. John felt like it was more of a, I guess, responsibility as my business partner to kind of let me in on it rather than just kind of drop it all on.
Was this an overwhelming burden on post wrestling? Do we create extra work for people?
No, not at all. Like I couldn't be more proud of the two of you. But that is one of the questions that I'm sure you two will discuss. Why the decision to publish through Front Office Sports rather than your own outlets? And I look forward to you guys maybe taking us through some of that process on Wednesday.
Yeah, we will, because that definitely was a part of the whole thought process. So Tim Marchman is going to join us on Wednesday at the beginning of the show at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll talk about any developments, if there's any reactions to this story, and we'll talk about what we can. Like, a lot of it is just it's in the article itself, but we will talk about where we can and definitely address that subject as well. Why working with Front Office Sports as well, but. Yeah, I will just publicly state that Brandon is just as talented a reporter as I have ever worked with. I mean, this was something that he was just relentless in terms of pursuing, and I learned a lot just working with him in this small period. I'm very lucky to work with people like both of you, but this was certainly just another level of type of story to tackle, and I was very happy with what we were able to put out today.
Yeah, like I've told John and I've told Tim privately, there's no two people I would rather have done this with. And, I really trust John's judgment. And Tim was just, I told him I want him to defend me in every fight we get in from now on. But yes, I think there's a lot of interesting media stuff we may be able to talk about on Wednesday. The information that we know and that we can say publicly is in the article, but this is a very interesting experience that we had from a media perspective that maybe we'll get into more.
All right. So go and support. Patreon.com/WrestleNomics. If you enjoy this type of work, this is the kind of stuff that you are supporting as well. And we're back Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time with Brandon. And with that, you can now finally go to sleep on what has been a very long day. Thank you, Brandon.
I'll finish listening to this program and then I'll go to sleep.
Okay. Well,
Good
we
answer.
won't spoil the winner of the gauntlet yet.
Thank you, Brandon.
That was Brandon Thurston joining us. And again, he will be on Wednesday with Tim Marchman and myself.